You're listening to AI Signals, Daily Dose. 97 million downloads a month. That's not a social media app. That's not a video game. That's a protocol for connecting AI to the outside world, and the company that built it just gave it away. Anthropic donated the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, to the Linux Foundation, and in doing so, they may have just defined the infrastructure layer for the entire age of AI agents. This is your Daily Dose for Wednesday, February 12th, 2026. Today, we're going deep on one topic: how a protocol that started as an internal Anthropic project became the universal standard that OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft all rallied behind, why Anthropic chose to give up control, and what the security risks are that almost nobody is talking about. Let's get into it. So first, what is MCP and why does it matter? Think about this problem. You have an AI assistant. Could be Claude, could be ChatGPT, could be Gemini. You want it to check your calendar, pull data from a database, or run a command in your terminal. Before MCP, every one of those connections required a custom integration. A developer had to write specific code to connect that specific AI to that specific tool. And if you wanted to connect 10 AI apps to 10 tools, you needed 100 different integrations. It was an N times M problem that didn't scale. MCP solves this the way USB-C solved the cable problem. One standard interface that works everywhere. The architecture is elegant. You have a host application, that's your AI app. Inside, it sits an MCP client, and that client talks to MCP servers, which are lightweight programs that expose tools, data sources, and prompts in a standardized format. The whole thing runs on JSON RPC 2.0, the same protocol that powers a lot of the web you already use. Here's why it clicked. An MCP server for Slack looks the same to Claude as it does to ChatGPT as it does to Gemini. Build the connector once, and every AI application that speaks MCP can use it. That's powerful, and it's why adoption exploded. Anthropic open-sourced MCP in November 2024. Within 5 months, Sam Altman personally announced that OpenAI was going all in on it. His exact words were that people love MCP and that OpenAI was excited to add support across their products. 2 months after that, Microsoft announced MCP support at Build 2025, integrating it into Windows 11, GitHub, Azure, and Copilot. Google followed with Gemini support, and suddenly every major AI platform was speaking the same language. But here's where the story gets really interesting, and this is the part most people miss. On December 9th, 2025, Anthropic did something unusual. They donated MCP to a brand new organization called the Agentic AI Foundation, housed under the Linux Foundation. This is the same umbrella that governs Kubernetes, PyTorch, and Node.js, some of the most critical open source infrastructure on the planet. And they didn't do it alone. The foundation was co-founded by 3 companies you might not expect to see on the same letterhead: Anthropic, Block, which is Jack Dorsey's company, and OpenAI. The platinum members read like a who's who of tech. Amazon, Bloomberg, Cloudflare, Google, and Microsoft all signed on at the highest tier. Gold members include Cisco, Datadog, Docker, IBM, JetBrains, Oracle, SAP, and Snowflake. This is remarkable. Think about what happened here. Anthropic built something valuable, watched it become a de facto standard, and then handed governance to a neutral body before they could be accused of controlling it. That's a strategic move borrowed straight from the open source playbook. The same playbook Google used with Kubernetes, the same one Meta used with PyTorch. You build it, you seed it, you grow it, and then you give it away to make it unstoppable. And the numbers prove it worked. MCP hit 97 million SDK downloads per month. Thousands of public MCP servers are live and growing. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Cursor, VS Code, and Microsoft Copilot all support it natively. The founding projects of the Agentic AI Foundation include MCP itself, an open-source AI agent called Goose built by Block, and a file specification called agents.md contributed by OpenAI. So the protocol won, the industry converged. But now comes the hard part. Because MCP has a security problem, and it's not a small one. Here's the uncomfortable truth. MCP was designed for interoperability and functionality. Security was not a primary design goal. And as adoption has skyrocketed, the gap between what MCP can do and what it can safely do has widened. Let me give you the specifics. The first major risk is called tool poisoning. An attacker can publish an MCP server that looks perfectly legitimate. It passes initial review, gets adopted by developers, works as expected. But later, the tool's description or behavior gets silently updated to include malicious instructions. If the AI application isn't checking for changes, it just keeps calling the tool. Now you've got a backdoor. Then there's prompt injection through MCP servers. Security researchers have already found vulnerabilities in real MCP servers, including one of Anthropic's own Git servers, that allowed file access and remote code execution through injected prompts. A critical vulnerability, CVE 2025-6514, scored a 9.6 out of 10 on the severity scale. And here's the broader enterprise problem. Just like shadow IT emerged when employees started using unsanctioned cloud apps, shadow AI is now proliferating. Development teams are spinning up MCP connections to tools and databases without security team approval. Most organizations can't answer basic questions. Which AI agents are running? What MCP servers are they connected to? What data are they accessing? Gartner predicts that 40% of enterprise applications will include task-specific AI agents by the end of 2026, up from less than 5% today. That's an extraordinary deployment velocity, and all of it runs through integration infrastructure like MCP. So you've got a protocol that's becoming ubiquitous, a security surface that's expanding faster than defenses can keep up, and an enterprise adoption curve that shows no signs of slowing down. That's the tension at the heart of this story. Now, to be fair, the community knows this. The Agentic AI Foundation has active working groups on security. The authorization spec is being reworked. A stable release of the TypeScript SDK version 2 is expected in the first quarter of 2026 with improved security features. And the next MCP Dev Summit happening in New York City on April 2nd and 3rd has security as a top-line agenda item. But right now, today, the honest assessment is that MCP adoption is outpacing MCP security, and that's a race the industry needs to take seriously. So here's the takeaway. MCP is the most important AI infrastructure story that most people outside the developer world haven't heard of. It solved the integration problem. It achieved something incredibly rare in tech, genuine multi-company convergence on a single standard. And by moving to the Linux Foundation, it ensured that no single company controls the protocol that connects AI to the real world. But the same openness that made MCP successful also makes it vulnerable. Every MCP server is a potential entry point. Every unvetted tool is a potential exploit. And as AI agents move from novelty to necessity, the stakes of getting security right go through the roof. The protocol won the standards war. Now it has to win the security war. And that story is just getting started. If you found this useful, share it with someone building on top of AI agents. I'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, stay curious.